The bridge of the U.S. Liberty hummed with quiet activity. Commander Jake Morrison stood near the captain's chair, watching the stars through the main screen. The ship moved slowly through the Kepler sector, far from Earth and farther from any other human worlds. Out here, in the empty space between star systems, anything could happen. Lisa Hayes sat at her station, headphones over her ears. She was the ship's communications officer, and her job was to listen. She listened for enemy signals, for distress calls, for anything that might be important. Most days, she heard nothing, but the quiet buzz of space. Today was different. "Sir," Lisa called out, pulling off her headphones. "I'm getting something strange." Commander Morrison walked over to her station. "What kind of strange?" "It's a signal, but not like anything we've heard before. It's coming in on multiple frequencies." At once, Lisa played with the controls, trying to make the signal clearer. "It sounds like a distress call, but the language is completely unknown." The bridge became quiet. Everyone stopped what they were doing to listen. From the speakers came a series of sounds that were clearly not human. High-pitched tones mixed with clicking noises and what sounded like musical notes. It was unlike anything in their databases. "How long has this been going on?" Morrison asked. "I just picked it up now, but looking at the pattern, it might have been broadcasting for weeks," Lisa replied. She worked at her controls, trying to clean up the signal. "Sir, this sounds desperate. Whatever is sending this really needs help." Chief Engineer Ryan Cole looked up from his station. "Can we figure out where it's coming from?" Navigator Amy Foster was already working on that question. Her fingers moved across her screen, calculating distances and directions. "I've got the source location. It's coming from dead space, about 6 hours away at current speed." Morrison knew that area. Dead space was what they called the empty regions between star systems. No planets, no stations, no reason for anyone to be there. Ships that went into dead space usually had a good reason, or they were in serious trouble. "What are our current orders?" Morrison asked his first officer. "Standard patrol of the outer rim. We're supposed to check shipping lanes and watch for pirate activity," came the reply. Morrison thought about this. Going to investigate would mean leaving their patrol route. It would mean explaining to Earth Command why they had ignored their orders. But the sound coming from the speakers was getting weaker, and there was something about it that made his chest feel tight. "Sir, I'm getting more details on the signal," Lisa said. "It's definitely a distress call. The pattern keeps repeating, and there are mathematical sequences mixed in. Whoever is sending this knows about science and math." Ryan Cole stood up from his engineering station. "Commander, if someone is in trouble out there, we might be their only chance. Ships don't usually patrol dead space." Morrison looked around. The bridge. His crew of 30 people on the bridge watched him, waiting for his decision. Behind them, throughout the ship, were nearly 200 more crew members. All of them trusted him to make the right choice. "Amy, how long would it take?" "Used to get there?" he asked. 6 hours at full speed. "But sir, if we go, we'll be way off our patrol route. Command will want to know why." Morrison walked back to the captain's chair. He had been in command of the Liberty for 3 years. In that time, he had followed orders, completed missions, and kept his crew safe. But he had also learned to trust his feelings about people in trouble. "Lisa, keep working on that signal. See if you can learn anything else about whoever is sending it. Ryan, I want a full check of all our systems. If we're going into unknown territory, I want to be ready for anything." "Sir," Amy said quietly, "are we really going?" Morrison sat down in his chair and looked at the stars on the screen. Somewhere out there, someone was calling for help. Someone was alone and scared, and maybe dying. He thought about his own family back on Earth, and what he would want someone to do if they were the ones in trouble. Set course for the signal source. Full speed. The bridge came alive with activity. Amy plotted their new course, while Ryan checked all the ship's systems. Lisa kept working on the mysterious signal, trying to learn more about who was sending. As the Liberty changed direction and sped up, Morrison called down to the other parts of the ship. All departments, this is the commander. We are responding to a distress call from an unknown source. All crew should prepare for possible rescue operations. We don't know what we'll find, but we're going to be ready. Throughout the ship, people stopped what they were doing and listened. The medical team prepared their equipment. The security teams checked their weapons. The engineering crews made sure all systems were working properly. Dr. Susan Clark called up from the medical bay. Commander, if this is really a rescue situation, I'll need to know what kind of people we're helping. Do we know if they can breathe? Our air? Do they have the same kind of biology as humans? We don't know anything yet, Doctor. Just be ready for anything. As the hours passed, the signal grew stronger. Lisa was able to clean it up enough to hear more details. The sounds were definitely coming from someone intelligent. There were patterns that looked like numbers, and repetitions that seemed like words. Commander, Lisa said after 4 hours of work, I think there might be more than one source. It sounds like several different voices sending the same message. Ryan Cole looked up from his engineering reports. All systems are green, sir. We're ready for whatever we find. Danny Walsh, who operated the ship's sensors, suddenly sat up straight. Sir, I'm getting readings from the target area. There are objects out there, big ones. Morrison stood up. How big? Much bigger than us, sir. And there are smaller objects around them. The heat signatures suggest that some of these objects are still powered, but barely. Amy Foster checked their position. We'll be there in 90 minutes, sir. The bridge fell quiet again. Everyone was thinking the same thing. They were about to encounter something unknown, possibly dangerous, definitely important. Whatever was out there had been calling for help for weeks, and now humans were coming to answer. Morrison looked at his crew. These were good people, trained. People who had signed up to explore space and help others. He was proud to serve with them. All right, everyone. In 90 minutes, we're going to find out what's been calling for help. I want all departments ready. Sensor scans, medical preparations, security teams on standby. We don't know what we're walking into, but we're going to do this right. Lisa's voice broke the silence. Sir, the signal is much clearer now. I still don't understand the language, but the emotion is clear. Whoever is sending this is afraid and desperate. They really need help, Morrison nodded. Then that's what we'll give them. All hands prepare for contact with unknown life forms. This could be the most important day in human history. As the Liberty raced through space toward the source of the desperate calls, its crew prepared for first contact with an alien species. They had no idea that their decision to help would change not just their own lives, but the way the entire galaxy thought about humanity. The distress call continued to echo through space, weaker now, but still hoping that someone somewhere would care enough to answer. The Liberty dropped out of faster-than-light travel with a shudder that ran through the entire ship. Commander Morrison felt his stomach lurch as the stars stopped moving and became still points of light again. On the main screen, empty space stretched out before them, dark and cold. Sensor sweep, full spectrum. Morrison ordered. Danny Walsh worked at his station, his hands moving quickly over the controls. Numbers and images flashed across his screen. Sir, I'm reading multiple large objects directly ahead. Distance approximately 50,000 kilometers. Put it on screen. The main display changed, showing a view of space that made everyone on the bridge stop breathing. Floating in the darkness was the largest ship any of them had ever seen. It was easily 10 times the size of the Liberty, maybe more. Its hull was a strange silver color that seemed to shift and change as they watched, but it was clearly dying. "Look at those burn marks," Ryan Cole said from his engineering station. "Something hit them hard. Multiple explosions, probably internal." Around the giant ship, smaller objects drifted in space like seeds blown from a flower. Some were clearly escape pods. Others looked like pieces of the main ship that had been torn away. Life signs? Morrison asked. Dr. Susan Clark had come up to the bridge and was looking at the medical scanner displays. "Yes, sir. Lots of them. The big ship has hundreds of life forms aboard, and the smaller pods each have several more. But the readings are getting weaker." Lisa Hayes looked up from her communication station. "Sir, the distress signal is much stronger now. It's coming from the big ship and from at least 20 of the smaller pods." Morrison walked closer to the main screen. The massive alien ship was beautiful in a way that made him think of art more than technology. Its lines were smooth and flowing, like it had been grown rather than built. But the damage was terrible. Great holes had been torn in its side, and pieces of it were floating away into space. "Can we tell what happened to them?" Morrison asked. Ryan Cole studied his engineering sensors. "It looks like their main power system failed." "Not from battle damage, sir. This looks like an accident. Maybe their engine exploded, or their power core overloaded. The damage spread through the whole ship." "How long ago?" "Based on the heat, signatures, and the way the debris is scattered, I'd say at least 2 weeks, maybe more." Morrison thought about this. These people, whatever they were, had been floating here for weeks, slowly dying, sending out calls for help that no one had answered. "Dr. Clark, what can you tell me about the life forms?" The doctor looked at her readings carefully. "They're definitely not human, sir. The biological patterns are completely different. But they seem to be oxygen breathers like us. Their body temperature is lower than ours, and their heart rates are much slower. I think they might be larger than humans. Are they dangerous?" "I can't tell from these readings, sir. But if they've been dying slowly for weeks, they're probably not in any condition to be a threat." Morrison made his decision. "Prepare a boarding party, security team, medical team, and communications. We're going over there." Security Chief Tony Davis stood up from his station. "Sir, we don't know anything about these people. They could be hostile." "Tony, look at that ship. They're dying. If they wanted to hurt us, they would have tried by now. Besides, they called for help. People who call for help usually want to be helped." 20 minutes later, Morrison stood in the shuttle bay wearing a full environmental suit. With him were Tony Davis and 3 other security officers, Dr. Clark and 2 medical technicians, and Kevin Wright from Communications. Kevin carried a large case full of translation equipment. "Sir, I've been analyzing their signal during the trip over here. Their language is completely unknown, but there are mathematical patterns I might be able to work with." The shuttle launched from the Liberty and crossed the empty space between the ships. As they got closer, the alien vessel looked even more massive. Its hull was covered with designs that looked like writing or maybe decoration. Up close, the damage was even more terrible. "There," Tony pointed to a section of the ship where the hull had been torn open. "We can get in through that breach." The shuttle attached itself to the alien ship's hull. Morrison led the way through the airlock and into the ship itself. The first thing that hit them was the smell. Even through their suit filters, they could detect something like flowers mixed with something electrical. The second thing was the sound. Voices, definitely voices, calling out in the alien language. "Life support is working in this section," Dr. Clark reported. "The atmosphere is breathable for us, but it's getting thin. I'd say they have maybe 6 hours of air left. They moved through corridors that were clearly designed for beings much taller than humans. The ceilings were high, and the doorways were narrow but tall. Everything was curved and smooth, with no sharp edges anywhere. "This way," Kevin said, following the sound of voices. "The calls are coming from what looks like the main living area." They turned a corner and stopped. In a large room ahead of them, dozens of alien beings sat or lay on what looked like comfortable furniture. They were tall, just as Dr. Clark had predicted, with long arms and legs. Their skin was a pale blue color, and they had large eyes that seemed to take up half their faces. When the aliens saw the humans, they became very quiet. Morrison stepped forward and raised his hand in what he hoped was a peaceful gesture. One of the aliens, wearing what looked like a uniform, stood up and walked toward them. The alien was at least 7 feet tall, with 6 limbs instead of 4. 2 arms, 2 legs, and 2 more arms that seemed more like hands with very long fingers. Its face was kind, despite being so different from human faces. The alien spoke in its musical language. The words meant nothing to Morrison, but the tone was clear. It was asking who they were and what they wanted. Kevin Wright stepped forward and opened his case. He pulled out a small device and began speaking into it. "We are humans. We heard your call for help. We want to help you." The device made electronic sounds as it tried to translate. The alien listened, its large eyes growing even larger. It spoke again, and this time Kevin's device managed some basic translation. "You came. You heard us. We thought no one would come." Morrison felt something tight in his chest. These people had been waiting to die, thinking no one cared enough to help them. "We're here now," Morrison said into Kevin's translator. "We want to help. What do you need?" The alien leader, for that's clearly what it was, made sounds that the translator couldn't handle. But its emotions were easy to read. Relief, hope, and something that might have been tears in those large eyes. Other aliens began to gather around them. Morrison counted at least 60 in this room alone, and he could hear more voices from other parts of the ship. They all looked weak and tired, but they were looking at the humans with something like wonder. Dr. Clark was already scanning the aliens with her medical equipment. "Commander, they're in bad shape. Dehydration, malnutrition, and what looks like some kind of respiratory distress from the bad air." The alien leader spoke again, and this time Kevin's translator caught more of it. "Our ship is dead. Our people at home said it would cost too much to save us. They told us to prepare for death." Morrison felt anger rise in his chest. "Your own people abandoned you?" "Yes, we are scientists. We study space. Our government said science people are not important enough to save." Tony Davis shook his head. "How many of you are there?" The alien looked sad. 400 on this ship. Maybe 50 more in the escape pods. We have been here for 18 days. Every day more of us die." Dr. Clark looked at Morrison. "Sir, we need to get these people help immediately. But our ship can maybe take 50 extra people safely. We can't save them all." Morrison looked around the room at the dozens of alien faces watching him. Behind them, throughout the ship, were hundreds more. All of them were dying because their own government had decided they weren't worth saving. "We'll figure something out," Morrison said. "Kevin, tell them we're not leaving anyone behind. Tell them humans don't abandon people who need help." As Kevin translated, Morrison saw something change in the aliens' faces. Hope began to replace despair. They began to talk excitedly among themselves. The alien leader stepped closer to Morrison. When it spoke, its voice was full of emotion that needed no translation. "You would risk your lives for strangers? For people not even your own species?" Morrison looked at the alien, then at his crew, then back at the alien. "That's what humans do. We help people who need help. all people. As word spread through the dying ship that rescue had come, Morrison began to understand that this moment would change everything, not just for these aliens, but for humanity's place among the stars. First, they had to figure out how to save 450 people with a ship designed for 200. Back on the Liberty, Commander Morrison stood in the conference room with his senior officers. The faces around the table were serious. They all knew the problem. 450 aliens needed rescue, but their ship could safely carry maybe 50 extra people. "Give me options," Morrison said. Dr. Clark spoke first. "Medically, it's possible to pack more people into our ship if we're careful. We could put them in the cargo bays, set up temporary life support. But we're talking about cramming people into spaces not meant for living." Chief Engineer Ryan Cole shook his head. "The life support system can't handle that many extra people. We'd run out of air in 2 days, maybe 3 if we're lucky." Navigator Amy Foster looked at her charts. "The nearest station is New Geneva, 8 days away at our best speed. The nearest planet where we could drop them off is 12 days. What about other ships?" Morrison asked. "Can we call for help?" Communications Officer Lisa Hayes had been working on this problem. "I've sent messages to every human ship within 3 sectors. The closest one is the cargo ship Mercy, but it's 5 days away. Even if it comes at full speed, those aliens don't have 5 days. Security Chief Tony Davis leaned forward. "Sir, I have to ask the hard question. Standard protocol says we take who we can and report the situation to command. We could save 50 of them." Morrison looked at Tony. "And let 400 die?" "Sir, if we tried to save them all and fail, we might lose everyone, including our own crew." The room fell silent. Morrison knew Tony was right about the protocol. It was the safe choice, the smart choice. But Morrison kept thinking about the alien leader's words. Their own government had decided they weren't worth saving. "No," Morrison said quietly. "We don't leave people behind. Not some of them, not any of them. We figure out how to save them all." Ryan Cole looked up from his technical notes. "Sir, if you're serious about this, I have an idea. It's crazy, but it might work. I'm listening. We strip everything non-essential from our ship. Extra weapons, spare parts, even some of the crew quarters. We use that space and power for the aliens. We also connect our life support directly to their ship. Keep it running just long enough to evacuate everyone slowly." Dr. Clark nodded. "If we work in shifts, taking groups of 50 at a time, we could process everyone in about 12 hours. But we'd need to work fast." Amy Foster was already calculating. "If we push the engines past their safety limits, we could cut the trip to New Geneva down to 6 days. But that's still too long for our life support to handle that many people." Lisa Hayes looked up from her communications console. "What if we call in every favor we have? I could send emergency signals to every ship in the sector, not just human ships. Someone might be close enough to help." Morrison stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see the massive alien ship, dark and dying. Inside that ship were hundreds of people who had given up hope until humans arrived. "Here's what we're going to do," Morrison said. "Ryan, start stripping everything we don't absolutely need. I want life support for 500 people, and I want it in 6 hours. Amy, plot a course for New Geneva, but also find us every possible. Stop along the way where we could drop people off safely." He turned to the others. "Lisa, send messages to everyone. Tell them we have a humanitarian crisis and need immediate assistance. Don't just ask for rescue ships. Ask for supplies, medical equipment, anything that could help. Tony, your security teams are now evacuation teams. I want detailed plans for moving 450 people safely." Dr. Clark stood up. "What? About medical care? Some of those aliens are in really bad shape. Do whatever you have to do. Set up medical stations in the cargo bays, the shuttle bay, anywhere you can fit them. We'll turn this whole ship into a hospital if we have to." As his officers left to carry out their orders, Morrison called down to the engine room. "Chief Martinez, this is the commander. I need to ask something big of you and your people." "Chief." Martinez was the head of the engineering department. "What do you need, sir?" "I need you to make our ship support 500 people for 6 days. I know it's not designed for that. I know it's dangerous. But I need you to find a way." There was a pause. "Sir, that's asking us to break every safety rule in the book. I know. I'm not ordering you to do it. I'm asking. There are 450 people over there who are going to die if we don't try." Another pause. "Give me 4 hours, sir. We'll find a way." Throughout the Liberty, the crew began the most ambitious rescue operation in human history. In the engineering sections, teams worked to reroute power and life support systems. They stripped out weapons they didn't need and converted empty spaces into living areas. In the medical bay, Dr. Clark and her team prepared for the largest emergency treatment operation they had ever attempted. They moved medical supplies into the cargo areas and set up treatment stations throughout the ship. The security teams became evacuation specialists, learning how to safely move large numbers of weak and frightened aliens from one ship to another. They practiced with human volunteers, timing every step of the process. Navigator Foster worked with the communications team to contact every possible source of help. They reached out to cargo ships, passenger liners, even military vessels from other species. Most couldn't help, but a few promised to try. After 6 hours of work, Morrison returned to the alien ship with a much larger team. They brought portable life support equipment, medical supplies, and translation devices that Kevin Wright had improved. The alien leader, who had told them his name was something like Zephyr, met them at the entrance to the ship. Through the translator, he asked, "Have you decided how many of us you can save?" Morrison looked him in the eye. "All of you." Zephyr's large eyes grew even larger. "All? But your ship is much smaller than ours. We're making it work. We're humans. We figure things out." What followed was the most complex evacuation in space history. The humans worked in teams, each with a specific job. Medical teams checked each alien to see who needed the most urgent care. Engineering teams maintained life support connections between the ships. Security teams guided groups of aliens through the transfer process. The aliens helped as much as they could. Those who were stronger helped carry those who were weaker. They organized themselves into groups and followed human instructions, even when they didn't understand the language. Dr. Clark discovered that human medical equipment worked surprisingly well on the aliens. Their biology was different, but the basics were similar enough that she could treat their dehydration and malnutrition. The first group of 50 aliens was transferred to the Liberty after 8 hours of preparation. They were placed in the cargo bay, which had been converted into a temporary living area with sleeping mats, basic facilities, and medical stations. Morrison watched as the aliens looked around their new surroundings. They were clearly amazed by human technology, but more than that, they seemed amazed that anyone had cared enough to help them. Zephyr approached Morrison. "Commander, I must ask you something. Why are you doing this? We are not your people. We have nothing to give you in return." Morrison thought about how to answer. Because it's right. Because no one should die alone in space when there are people who can help. Because that's what we would want someone to do for us. Zephyr was quiet for a long moment. "Your species is very different from ours. Our government calculated the cost of rescuing us and decided we were not worth it. You calculated the cost and decided to pay it anyway. That's the difference between price and value," Morrison said. "Your government looked at the price. We looked at the value. People's lives have value that can't be measured in money or resources. As the night continued, more groups of aliens were transferred to the Liberty. The ship became crowded beyond anything it was designed for, but somehow it worked. The crew shared their food, their water, their living spaces. They slept in shifts so the aliens could have places to rest on. By the end of the second day, all 450 aliens were aboard the Liberty. The ship was packed beyond capacity, running on life support systems that were stressed to their limits. But everyone was alive. Morrison stood on the bridge, looking at displays that showed every section of his ship filled with people. His crew was exhausted, but they were smiling. They had done something impossible. "Sir," Lisa Hayes called from her station. "I'm getting responses to our emergency calls. The cargo ship Mercy is changing course to meet us. The passenger liner Star Dream is also coming. And sir, we're getting responses from non-human ships too." Morrison nodded. "How long until we can start transferring some of our passengers?" "The Mercy will intercept us in 36 hours. The Star Dream in 48 hours. Amy Foster looked up from her navigation station. "Sir, we're pushing the life support systems hard, but I think we can make it." Morrison looked around the bridge at his crew. They were tired, stressed, and working with equipment that was beyond its limits. But they were also proud. They had answered a call for help from complete strangers and found a way to save everyone. "All right, people. 36 more hours. Let's bring these people home." As the Liberty continued its journey through space, packed with humans and aliens working together, word began to spread throughout the galaxy. The Liberty had been traveling for 30 hours when Danny Walsh noticed something wrong on his sensors. The ship was heavy with its load of refugees, moving slower than normal. When the sensor operator saw ships approaching from behind, "Commander," Danny called out, his voice tight with worry, "I'm reading 5 ships coming up fast on our tail. They're not responding to our identification signals." Commander Morrison was in the cargo bay checking on the alien refugees when the call came. He hurried back to the bridge, where his crew was already at their stations. The main screen showed 5 dark ships moving toward them at high speed. "Are they human ships?" Morrison asked. "No, sir," Danny replied. "The designs are mixed. Looks like different species working together. And, sir, they're armed. Heavily armed." Lisa Hayes looked up from her communication station. "I'm getting a signal from them now, sir. They're demanding we stop and prepare to be boarded." Morrison's stomach dropped. Pirates. Out here in the empty space between systems, pirates were always a danger. They attacked ships that couldn't defend themselves, stealing cargo and sometimes taking prisoners to sell as slaves. "What do they want?" Morrison asked, though he already knew the answer. Lisa listened to the signal coming through her headphones. "They're demanding we surrender both ships and turn over our cargo." "Sir, I think they mean the aliens." Security. Chief Tony Davis was already at his station, checking weapon systems. "Sir, they've been watching us. They probably saw us rescue the aliens and think we're carrying valuable cargo." Morrison looked at the tactical display. 5 enemy ships against 1 human vessel that was overloaded with refugees. The Liberty was a military ship, but it wasn't built for fighting when packed with 500 people. "Can we outrun them?" Morrison asked. Navigator Amy Foster shook her head. "Not with all the extra weight, sir. They're faster than us right now." Dr. Clark's voice came over the communication system from the cargo bay. "Commander, the aliens are getting scared. They can sense something is wrong. What should I tell them?" Morrison thought quickly. The aliens had already been abandoned by their own people. They had spent weeks thinking they were going to die. Now, just when they thought they were safe, pirates wanted to capture them and sell them as slaves. "Tell them we're going to protect them," Morrison said into his communicator. Tell them. Humans don't give up. The pirate ships were getting closer. On the main screen, Morrison could see they were ugly vessels, built for fighting and raiding. Each one bristled with weapons and looked like it had been in many battles. Lisa Hayes received another message. Sir, they're hailing us directly now. The leader wants to talk. Put it through. The main screen changed to show a face that made Morrison's crew step back. The pirate leader was clearly not human, with yellow eyes, sharp teeth, and scars covering his face. When he spoke, his voice was rough and mean. Human ship, you will surrender now. We claim salvage rights on the alien vessel and all cargo you have taken from it. Comply and we will let you live. Morrison stepped forward. This is Commander Jake. Morrison of the United Earthship Liberty. We are conducting a humanitarian rescue mission. These people are refugees under our protection. The pirate leader laughed, showing more sharp teeth. Refugees? They are valuable cargo. The tall blue ones sell for good prices in the slave markets. You will turn them over now. That's not going to happen. The pirate's yellow eyes narrowed. Human, you have one small ship. We have 5 battle cruisers. You are carrying civilians and cannot fight properly. Be smart. Give us what we want and live. Morrison looked around his bridge. His crew was watching him, waiting for his decision. In the cargo areas below, 450 aliens were counting on him to keep them safe. I have a counter-offer, Morrison said. Leave now, and we won't destroy you. The pirates laughed so hard they had to hold their sides. You will destroy us? With one overloaded ship? Human, your species is new to space. You do not understand how things work out here. We understand perfectly, Morrison replied. We understand that some people help others, and some people hurt others. We know which kind we are. The question is, do you know which kind you are? The pirate leader stopped laughing. You have 1 minute to surrender, or we will take your ship by force and kill everyone aboard. Morrison turned to his crew. Weapons. Officer Pete Robinson. Are our systems ready? Pete Robinson had been quiet at his station, but now he looked up with a grim smile. All weapons charged and ready, sir. Targeting systems locked on all 5 ships. Amy, can you give us some room to maneuver? Yes, sir. Even with the extra weight, I can make the ship dance. Tony Davis checked his security reports. All crew are at battle stations, sir. The aliens are secured in the cargo areas with emergency life support. Morrison looked at the countdown timer on his screen. 30 seconds left. Lisa, send a message to those cargo ships that are coming to help us. Tell them to hurry. Already done, sir. The Mercy is pushing its engines past the red line to get here. Morrison sat down in his captain's chair. All right, people. These pirates think they can take our refugees and sell them as slaves. They think humans are weak because we care about helping others. Let's show them how wrong they are. The countdown reached 0. The pirate ships opened fire first, sending bright energy beams toward the Liberty. But Amy Foster was ready. She spun the ship in ways that should have been impossible for such. A heavy vessel, avoiding most of the incoming fire. The shots that did hit the Liberty struck the reinforced military sections of the ship. The refugees in the cargo areas felt the ship shake, but they were safe. Return fire, Morrison ordered. Pete Robinson's fingers moved across his controls like he was playing a musical instrument. The Liberty's weapons systems came alive, sending precisely aimed shots at the pirate ships. The first pirate ship exploded in a ball of fire. The others scattered, clearly surprised by the accuracy and power of human weapons. How did they do that? One of the pirates yelled over the communication. Channel. That was a perfect shot, Morrison smiled. Pete, show them what human targeting systems can do. The Liberty spun and twisted through space, avoiding pirate weapons while sending back devastating accurate fire. Pete Robinson had trained for years on human military systems, and those systems were designed by people who understood that sometimes you had to fight to protect innocent people. The second pirate ship lost its weapons and began to drift helplessly. The third ship tried to run, but was too slow. Pete's next shot disabled its engines. The remaining two pirate ships grouped together and tried a coordinated attack. They came at the Liberty from two different directions, hoping to overwhelm the human ship's defenses. Amy Foster saw them coming. "Hold on, everyone," she announced over the ship's communication system. "This is going to be rough." She put the Liberty into a maneuver that the ship's designers had never intended. The vessel spun end over end while still moving forward, bringing its weapons to bear on both attacking ships at the same time. Pete Robinson fired both forward and rear weapons simultaneously. Both pirate ships were hit dead center and began breaking apart. In less than 10 minutes, the battle was over. 3 pirate ships were destroyed, and 2 were disabled and drifting helplessly in space. The pirate leader's face appeared on the screen again, but now he looked very different. His yellow eyes were wide with fear, and his voice shook when he spoke. "What are you?" "We heard humans were soft, that you only cared about peace and trade." Morrison leaned forward in his chair. "We do care about peace. We care about it so much that we're willing to fight anyone who threatens it. We care about helping people so much that we'll destroy anyone who tries to hurt the people we're helping. This is impossible. One ship cannot defeat 5. You should have been easy targets. You made a mistake," Morrison said. "You thought that caring about others makes us weak. You thought that helping people means we can't fight. You were wrong. Caring about others doesn't make us weak. It makes us dangerous to anyone who threatens the people we care about." The pirate leader's ship was badly damaged and leaking air. "Please, we surrender. Don't destroy us." Morrison looked at his crew, then back at the screen. "We're not going to destroy you. We're going to let you go so you can tell others what happened here. Tell them that humans have come to this part of space. Tell them we help people who need help, and we fight people who hurt the innocent. What should we tell them about humans?" Morrison thought for a moment. "Tell them that humans keep their promises. When we promise to protect someone, we keep that promise. When we say we won't abandon people, we mean it. And when someone threatens the people we're protecting, they'll have to go through us first." The pirate ships limped away into space, badly damaged, but alive. Throughout the sector, word would spread about the human ship that had fought 5 pirates to protect refugees. In the cargo areas of the Liberty, the aliens had felt the battle through the ship's movement and the sounds of weapons firing. Now Zephyr and several other alien leaders came to the bridge. "Commander," Zephyr said through the translator, "we felt the ship fighting. Were there enemies?" "Pirates," Morrison explained. "They wanted to capture you and sell you as slaves. We convinced them that wasn't going to happen." Zephyr looked around the bridge at the human crew. 6 hours after the battle with the pirates, the cargo ship Mercy arrived at their location. Commander Morrison watched on the main screen as the large vessel approached. It was 3 times the size of the Liberty and designed to carry vast amounts of cargo in its holds. Captain Sarah Blake of the Mercy spoke over the communication channel. "Commander Morrison, we came as fast as we could. I have to say, when we got your message about rescuing 400 aliens, I thought there was a mistake in the transmission." "No mistake, Captain Blake. We have 450 refugees who need safe transport to New Geneva Station." 450? Morrison, that's incredible. How did you fit them all? Morrison looked around his crowded bridge. Even the command deck had sleeping mats in the corners where off-duty crew members rested. "We made it work, but we need to transfer about half of them to your ship. Our life support systems are at their absolute limit. Over the next 8 hours, the two ships worked together to transfer 200 aliens to the Mercy. The process was slow and careful. Each alien had to be moved from one ship to another through connecting airlocks. Dr. Clark worked with the Mercy's medical team to continue treating the aliens who were still weak from their weeks of starvation. Many of them were getting stronger now that they had food and clean air, but some needed ongoing medical care. During the transfer, Morrison spent time talking with the aliens through Kevin Wright's improved translation system. He learned that they called themselves the Meridians, and they were scientists and explorers from a world called Kepler Prime. Zephyr explained their situation to Morrison. "Commander, our government runs everything based on money. When our ship was damaged, they calculated how much it would cost to rescue us. They decided it was too expensive. What about your families? Didn't they protest?" "Some did. But our government told them we knew the risks when we signed up for deep space exploration. They said it was our own fault for going so far from home." Morrison felt angry every time he heard this story. These people were scientists, explorers, who had been trying to learn new things and discover new worlds. When they needed help, their own government had abandoned them. "That won't happen again," Morrison promised. "Humans will make sure of it." Zephyr looked confused. "But Commander, we are not humans. Why would your people care what happens to us?" "In the future? Because what's right is right, no matter who it's for." 2 days later, the passenger liner Stardream joined them. This ship was even larger than the Mercy and was designed to carry people in comfort. Captain Robert Kane was an older man who had been running passenger ships for 20 years. "Morrison," Captain Kane said when they met in person, "I've been carrying passengers between star systems for decades, but I've never seen anything like this. You've got news crews from a dozen worlds trying to get here to cover this story." "News crews?" "The story is spreading, Commander. A human ship risks everything to save aliens that their own government abandoned, then fights off pirates to protect them. Every species in the galaxy is talking about it." Morrison hadn't thought about the news coverage. He had been focused on getting the aliens to safety. But as the Star Dream took aboard another 200 Meridians, he began to realize that this rescue was bigger than just one ship helping some stranded people. Kevin Wright had spent days learning the Meridian language, and now he could translate much more effectively. Through him, Morrison learned more about how other species treated each other in the galaxy. "Commander," Zephyr explained, "most species help their own people, but they rarely help others. There are laws about not attacking each other, but no laws about helping. If someone is in trouble, and they are not your species, most people just ignore them. That seems wrong. It is wrong, but it is normal. Until now. What you humans have done is not normal. You have risked your ship, your crew, your lives to save strangers. This is unheard of." As they traveled toward New Geneva Station, Morrison noticed changes in how the aliens acted around the humans. At first, they had been grateful but distant. Now, they were trying to learn human customs and help with ship operations. Some of the younger Meridians asked Dr. Clark if they could help in the medical bay. Others worked with the engineering teams, sharing their knowledge of advanced technology. The two species began to work together in ways that surprised everyone. Amy Foster discovered that Meridian mathematics was far more advanced than human mathematics. "Commander, they've shown me calculation methods that could improve our navigation by 30%. Ryan Cole was excited about Meridian engineering. "Sir, their power systems are incredibly efficient. If we could adapt their technology to our ships, we could travel much farther and faster." But Morrison noticed that the most important changes were not about technology. The humans and Meridians were becoming friends. They shared meals, played games, and told stories about their home worlds. Lisa Hayes spent her off-duty hours learning Meridian music. "Commander, They have songs that use mathematical patterns in the melody. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. Dr. Clark worked with the Meridian medical specialists to learn about their healing techniques. They use sound frequencies to help the body heal itself. It's amazing. On the 4th day of travel, Zephyr came to Morrison with news from home. Commander, we have received messages from Kepler Prime. Our government wants to meet with you when we reach New Geneva Station. What do they want? They want to thank you officially for saving us. But I think they really want to understand why you did it. They are having trouble believing that anyone would risk so much for strangers. Morrison thought about this. What do your people think about what happened? Zephyr was quiet for a moment. The ones who have families among us are very angry with the government. They are demanding to know why humans cared more about us than our own leaders did. There are protests on our home world. I'm sorry if we caused problems. Commander, you caused the right kind of problems. Sometimes people need to be angry about the right things. When they finally reached New Geneva Station, Morrison was amazed by what he saw. The station was surrounded by ships from dozens of different species. News vessels, diplomatic ships, and even military escorts had come to witness the arrival of the rescued Meridians. Station Commander Patricia Wells contacted the Liberty as they approached. Commander Morrison, this is the biggest gathering of different species this station has ever seen. Everyone wants to know about the humans who rescued the Meridians. As the ships docked at the station, Morrison and his crew found themselves at the center of galactic attention. Representatives from many different species wanted to meet them and hear their story, but the most important meeting was with the Meridian government officials who had come from Kepler Prime. They were clearly uncomfortable as they faced the aliens they had abandoned and the humans who had saved them. The lead official, whose name translated to something like Administrator Prime, spoke formally to Morrison. Commander, our government wishes to express gratitude for your actions. We also wish to understand your motivations. Morrison looked at the official, then at Zephyr and the other Meridians. We did what anyone should do. People were in trouble, so we helped them. But the cost, the risk to your ship and crew, the cost of doing the right thing is always worth paying. Administrator Prime looked confused. But they are not your species. You had no obligation to help them. Morrison felt his crew standing behind him. These were people who had worked 18-hour days, risked their lives in battle, and shared their food and water with strangers. They had never questioned whether it was the right thing to do. Sir, with respect, I think you're asking the wrong question. The question isn't why we helped them. The question is why you didn't. The Meridian official had no answer for that. Over the following days, delegations from dozens of species visited New Geneva Station. They all wanted to understand what kind of people these humans were. Some came because they were curious. Others came because they were worried about what human involvement might mean for the balance of power in the galaxy. But the most important visitors were the ones who came because they had people in trouble and needed help. A trade delegation from the Centauri Republic asked if humans would help rescue their people who were trapped on a mining station with a failing life support system. A group of civilian ships from the Vega colonies asked for escort through pirate-controlled space. Morrison found himself meeting with representatives from species he had never heard of, all asking the same question. Would humans help them too? The answer was always yes. Within a month, the rescue of the Meridians had changed everything. The human government established the first contact division, with Morrison as its commander. Their mission was to respond to any distress call from any species, anywhere in the galaxy. The Liberty was refitted as a humanitarian vessel, with better medical facilities and larger cargo areas for rescue operations. Other human ships were assigned to work with Morrison's team, but the real change was in how the galaxy saw humanity. Before the Meridian rescue, humans had been just another new species trying to find their place among the stars. After the rescue, They were known as the species that answered calls for help.